No bombs fell, no cities burned, and yet millions died. Governments collapsed, borders shifted, empires vanished, all without formal declarations of war. Because the most important conflict of the 20th century was never fought on battlefields. It was fought in shadows, in files, in whispers, in betrayals that took decades to reveal. This was the invisible war. And once it began, the world was never the same again. What you are about to hear is not fiction. Every secret, every betrayal, every hidden hand changed the course of nations long before armies ever marched. Before the 20th century, war was visible. Armies marched, flags rose, cannons spoke. Power was measured in soldiers and territory. Then industrialization changed everything. Railroads moved men faster than ever. Telegraphs carried messages at the speed of thought. Factories turned economies into weapons. Information became as valuable as land. And nations realized a terrifying truth. If you could control what your enemy knew, you could control what they did. Espionage stopped being a side activity. It became strategy, and strategy demanded secrecy. Secrecy demanded systems. Invisible systems. World War I is remembered for trenches and mud, but beneath the battlefield, another war was unfolding. Coded telegrams, intercepted cables, forged identities. Intelligence officers fought without uniforms. The Zimmerman telegram proved how dangerous information had become. One message, one interception, one leak, and the balance of the war shifted. It revealed a new reality. Wars could be decided before soldiers fired a single shot. Knowledge had become a weapon, and secrecy was its shield. When the war ended, the spying did not. Britain formalized its secret service. The United States built intelligence quietly, cautiously. The Soviet Union transformed surveillance into doctrine. Espionage became permanent. Files replaced flags. Analysts replaced generals. Governments no longer prepared only for visible wars. They prepared for silent ones, wars that would never officially begin. The Bolshevik Revolution reshaped more than Russia. It reshaped fear. The new Soviet state believed enemies were everywhere. Sometimes they were. Sometimes they were imagined. Espionage became survival. Surveillance entered daily life. Loyalty was questioned, silence was dangerous, fear became policy, and this shadow did not stay within Soviet borders. It stretched outward, quietly influencing every confrontation that followed. The Second World War was not won by numbers alone. It was won by deception. Fake armies that never existed, radio traffic designed to mislead, double agents feeding lies. Entire invasions succeeded because the enemy believed the wrong story. Espionage saved millions and ended millions more. By the end of the war, one truth was undeniable. Future wars would be decided long before the first shot was fired. Before the world celebrated peace, a new conflict had already begun. Allies stopped sharing information. Trust evaporated. Nuclear weapons made direct war unthinkable. One mistake could end civilization. So the conflict moved underground. The Cold War was not cold. It was invisible. And from that invisibility emerged the greatest global chessboard the world had ever seen. The Cold War turned the planet into a battleground, not with armies, but with influence. Coups replaced invasions. Proxy wars replaced declarations. Assassinations replaced negotiations. Latin America, Africa, Asia. Some nations never realized they were battlegrounds. Espionage no longer just gathered intelligence. It shaped governments. Influence became a silent weapon, deadlier than guns. The most effective spies did not look dangerous. They were ordinary, neighbors, colleagues, friends. Espionage thrived on human weakness, ideology, money, fear, ego. No intelligence agency was immune. The greatest damage came from within. And betrayal, quiet, personal, human, often shaped history more than armies ever could. Informants were replaced by satellites, couriers were replaced by computers. Espionage did not become cleaner, it became deeper. Surveillance expanded, data replaced dossiers, the invisible war began watching everyone. And a question emerged. How much of our world is ever truly visible? Sometimes the invisible war surfaced. Leaks, defections, revelations, each exposure reshaped public trust, governments denied, agencies adapted. The war did not end, it evolved, and every revelation carried the same reminder. Secrecy is power, and power never sleeps. The 20th century ended. Espionage did not. Today, battles are fought with algorithms, with data, with influence. The invisible war never needed uniforms. It never signed a peace treaty. Because once secrecy became power, there was no going back. And in the next episode, we will uncover how espionage continues to shape modern geopolitics and why the invisible war still determines the fate of nations, even in the digital age.